Good afternoon or good evening. My name is Greg Coleman, and I'm a very close friend of Paul Bowrood, and I know you guys are having an off-site meeting or a sales meeting. Whatever it is that you're having, I'm sure that you're going to have a lot of fun and you're going to learn a lot. First, I want to tell you about Paul. Paul and I worked together at Yahoo when I arrived in early 2001. And I can tell you at that point in time, Yahoo was an adventure. It was one of the adventures of a lifetime. And I know today Paul wanted me to talk to you about career, about the paths that you're going to take, how you're going to be managing your careers going forward. But I'll tell you, going back probably to 2005, when Paul and Mike Murphy left Yahoo, at the time I was extremely close to both of those guys, and I have to tell you, while I was asked by my management to try to keep these guys, I didn't want to. I wanted them to take an adventure. Back then, Facebook was not what it is now, not even close. Those of you that have gotten there in the last year or two can only imagine, but the trail was blazed by people. And I think you have to look at life in two ways when it comes to a career. Number one, you have to take a look at whether or not you want to go to a startup, whether or not you want to start a company fresh like Mike and Paul did, or if you're at Facebook today or any other company, whether or not you want to make what you're doing today an adventure. In Australia, in New Zealand, in the part of the world that you're living in right now, the level of maturity that your business is in is certainly not anywhere near what it is in New York. So my guess is you have a tremendous adventure in front of you. Innovation, focusing, targeting, thinking through the opportunities in the marketplace, it's all in front of you. Part of the advice that Paul asked me to give you is, if you're at a job and you've stopped learning and the adventure ceases to exist, I would hit the highway. And when I talked to Paul, I admired Paul. Paul was somebody that I mentored back at Yahoo. I learned a lot from him, but when it was time for me to try to keep him, as I said before, it was something I just couldn't do. You have to root for the individual far beyond rooting for the company. So I rooted for Paul. I wished him well on the adventure, and I think that looking at his Facebook page and looking at how he's balancing his life with his family and constantly surfing, I think he's hiding the Corona bottles along the way, but the adventure is there. So I can only imagine, as you guys are doing this planning session, you have the fall in front of you, and then you'll have 2012. What roads are you going to conquer? How high are you going to jump? How can you out-innovate? Because it's still very, very early stages. In my case, I actually escaped from planet Krypton, just like Superman, when I worked at Reader's Digest. And that was back in early 2001. And after leaving Reader's Digest, I left to go to Yahoo, which at that point was this pretty big brand, but the internet had just blown up and we needed to recreate a business model for that. And when I left Reader's Digest, my adventure at Yahoo was unbelievable, and it lasted for 7.5 years, but then it was time to go. And so after that, I had the chance to hook up with the team at the Huffington Post, where we were really recreating news and opinion with an only digital medium. It was incredibly empowering, but there were no roadmaps, no signs. But you look at companies like the New York Times and the Washington Post struggling with their digital processes and digital brain, because they were always tethered to a model that was non-digital, a bricks and mortar one. So we sold the Huffington Post, and that worked out pretty well. I'm here at my beach house, so things have kind of worked out well, not as well as I'm sure had they stayed at Facebook, had I gone to Facebook, but nevertheless things have been great. And now I'm at a company called Criteo, and we are a retargeting company done right. And my company is based in Paris, but I spend most of my time between New York and Palo Alto. So as I'm here talking to you, I want to wish you unbelievably well. I think Paul is one of the most motivational, charismatic leaders that I've ever met. And I got to know him when he was an individual contributor, and I had the chance to mentor him. But he had just a huge amount of energy and brains and fun. And let's face it, you're there at a sales conference. You're not there just to learn. You're there to build a team, and you're there to have a little bit of fun. And quite frankly, if you put me in a job that's really smart and interesting but not fun, you can take it and shove it. So this is Greg Coleman over and out from Amagansett, Long Island, New York, wishing you guys an awesome time, and I want you to kick ass for yourselves and for Paul. Thank you.